How often do I eat at McDonald's? I would tell you it's a lot, probably 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes it might be a breakfast, sometimes it might be a lunch.
If you eat fast food 3 times a week, you will spend $47,000 over the next 20 years. $47,000. That is a down payment on a house. That is a brand new car paid in full. That is your kids' first 2 years of college. And that number assumes you're spending today's prices, which, as we're going to see, are only going in one direction. Fast food companies have spent decades engineering their pricing, their apps, and their restaurants, and their menus specifically to make it hard to notice how much you are spending. So today, we're going to break all that down. How fast food went from the cheapest meal in America to one of the most quietly expensive habits in your budget. And at the end, I'm going to show you exactly what redirecting even a fraction of that spending could do for your financial future with real numbers. To understand how we got here, we have to go back. The late 90s and the early 2000s were a race to a bottom on fast food pricing. The strategy was simple: get as many people through the door as possible. It was volume over margins. You could walk in with a $5 bill and walk out full. And these ultra cheap items were loss leaders. The restaurants barely made money on them. They banked on the fact that you'd also buy a large soda or a side of fries, which cost almost nothing to produce. And for a long time, that math, it worked. But then it stopped working. Ingredient costs went up, labor costs rose, and the franchisees, the actual people running individual locations, they started losing money. They couldn't turn a profit just from selling double cheeseburgers for $1. And at the same time, the market is shifted. Even the better burger chains, Shake Shack, Five Guys, Smashburger, these places proved consumers would pay $10, $12, $15 for a burger if it felt like an experience. Fast food executives took notice, and being the cheapest option in town was no longer a viable long-term strategy. The race to the bottom was over. The race to capture middle-class spending had begun. And to charge you more, you have to convince people why they are getting more. And this is where premiumization comes in, and it's worth understanding how thin the actual changes really are. Fast food chains didn't reinvent their core products, they dressed them up. They swapped the standard sesame seed bun for brioche. They put applewood smoked in front of their bacon. McDonald's launched the smoky double gold burger. Burger King rolled out a premium steakhouse line. A $4 burger became an $8 artisanal sandwich. Same patty, better packaging, just fancier language. And this is consumer psychology 101. We associate a higher price with higher quality almost automatically. By upgrading just the presentation alone, sleek cardboard boxes, redesigned interiors that look more like a cafe, they shift your perception without fundamentally changing the product. You are paying for the aesthetic of a premium meal delivered through a drive-thru window, and your bank account is absorbing the difference every single time. And if you want to understand just how wide the gap is between the boardroom and the counter, 2 recent CEO moments say it better than any statistic could. McDonald's CEO posted a promotional video to launch the chain's new Big Arch burger. In the clip, he lifts the burger, calls it a product, not food, takes what viewers described as an almost comically small bite, declares it so good and distinctively McDonald's. And the internet compared it to the Simpsons bit where Krusty the Clown reluctantly nibbles his own burger on camera. And then there's Chipotle. Customers had been complaining for months that portion sizes were shrinking while prices were climbing. And when the CEO, Brian Nicole, was asked about it, he denied the portions had gotten smaller and then offered customers a tip. He said if you want a little more rice or a little more pico, just give the person behind the counter a look. And of course, Chipotle workers responded immediately. They said we were never trained on the head nod. And it turned out 1 in 10 Chipotle locations had in fact been serving smaller portions and needed retraining. And these aren't just isolated PR fumbles. They're windows into how these companies actually see you, not as a customer, but as a consumer of a product. Someone to be managed and not served. And the pricing, the apps, the kiosks, the portion sizes, all of it makes a lot more sense once you understand that. And here's the part of the story that genuinely got to me when I looked into it. Because it's not just that prices went up, it's the way they brought the prices back down and what they asked for in return. And at some point, Every major fast food chain quietly split the pricing into two tiers. There's the menu board prices, the premium gentrified price that everyone pays by default. And then there's the app price, the old, more reasonable price that you can access if you hand over your data. So download the app, create an account, give us your name, your email, your location, and your complete order history, and in exchange, we'll let you pay something closer to what the food used to cost. Just think about what that actually is. They raise prices on everyone, and then they built a system where you can get a discount, but only by giving them a permanent window into your spending behavior, your location patterns, and your daily routine. And that data is worth far more to them than the discount they are giving you. And McDonald's has reported that app users spend significantly more per visit than non-app users. The app isn't even a discount program. It's a behavioral tracking and spending optimization engine dressed up as a discount program. You are not beating the system. You are simply the system. They use that data to send push notifications at the exact moment that algorithm predicts you're most likely to be hungry. Driving home from work, sitting in traffic, 6 p.m. on a Tuesday, they use points and reward tiers to create a dopamine loop that makes spending feel like winning. And it works. It works incredibly well. Basically, they never brought the value back. They just changed the currency from cash to data. And the pricing manipulation doesn't stop at the menu board or the app. It's built into the physical architecture of the restaurant itself. Walk into almost any major fast food lobby today and you won't talk to a cashier. You'll tap a massive touchscreen, and the kiosks are not there for your convenience. They are highly optimized upselling machines. When you used to order from a human, there was social friction. You might feel self-conscious loading up your order with extras. A machine doesn't judge you, and it's programmed to prompt you. Add a dessert, upsize the meal, throw in a side, all before you can reach the checkout button. Studies have consistently showed that people spend more when ordering through a kiosk than through a human cashier. The transaction is frictionless. You tap, you go, you sit down, and the number on your receipt creeps up in ways that feel almost invisible. And that extra $3 or $4 per visit, multiply that by 150 visits a year. That is $450 to $600 in spending you never consciously decided to make. It just happened one upsell prompt at a time. So the question is, so why do we even keep paying? Why do we accept these prices for food handed to us in a paper bag? Because we are exhausted, and fast food companies know it better than almost anyone. We live in an era of genuine time scarcity. After a full workday, a long commute, and the mental load of just keeping life running, cooking dinner can feel like an impossible task. Fast food isn't really selling you a burger anymore, it's selling you time, convenience, and the ability to just turn your brain off for 45 minutes. And that's a real thing worth paying for occasionally. But the problem is that fast food companies hold a near monopoly on that kind of instant convenience. And they leverage that monopoly to charge whatever the market will bear. You are not paying $15 because the food is amazing. You are paying $15 to not have to think, and they price that relief accordingly. And understanding that framing doesn't eliminate the desire for convenience, but it does change our calculation, because once you see fast food as a premium rather than a cheap meal, the financial trade-off looks a bit different. Because this is where this video gets real. The average American visits a fast food restaurant about 3 times a week. At today's average spend of about $12 to $14 per visit, that is $40 to $45 per week, $160 to $180 per month, and annually, you are looking at somewhere between $1,900 and $2,200. Plenty of people are spending significantly more without even realizing it. Now here's a number that should make you stop and think. If you cut that fast food spending in half, just half, not eliminating it, and redirecting $80 a month into a Roth IRA invested in a low-cost index fund, here is what happens. After 10 years, assuming a 7% average annual return, you'd have approximately $13,800. After 20 years, $40,000. And after 30 years, over $91,000 from one habit change from cutting one thing in half. And a Roth IRA specifically matters here because the growth is tax-free. You're not just saving money, you're also building wealth that the government can't touch in retirement. That $91,000 is yours. And the question is never really, can I afford this meal? The question is, what are you even trading for it? And whether that trade is one you would consciously make if you saw the full picture. I'm not going to tell you to stop eating fast food. That's not realistic and it's not the point. But here is one thing you should do. Open your banking account or your credit card statement and search for fast food transactions over the past 90 days. And most people are genuinely surprised, not because they're irresponsible, but because fast food spending is designed to be invisible. They are small changes, frequent visits, and frictionless transactions. And once you have that number, you can make a real decision about it. Maybe you're fine with it, maybe you cut back by one visit a week and open a Roth IRA with the difference. Maybe you start meal prepping one night a week on Tuesday. And any of these are legitimate choices, but the key is it's a conscious one and not a default. And the dollar menu is not coming back. Fast food made a deliberate decision to move up market and price out the customers who built its business. The most financially sound response is to treat it accordingly as a premium convenience product with a real cost and decide intentionally how much of your budget it deserves. And that's it. Let me know what you think about fast food and this consumer culture we live in that's quietly draining our lives and wallets in the comments below. And if you enjoy videos like this blend of consumerism and finance, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other videos. Thank you very much for watching. Everything we talked about, the pricing, the apps, the portion sizes, the CEO who can't finish his own burger, it all runs on one ingredient. One ingredient that is in over 70% of packaged foods. That's been deliberately hidden under 60 different names on food labels. So in the next video, we are talking about sugar.